There comes a moment in life when we realize that it's time to say goodbye. Not just a temporary goodbye, but a forever kind of farewell. It's the kind of goodbye that doesn't always come with closure or clarity, yet we know it's necessary for our emotional survival. If you've ever felt that despite all your efforts, you simply can't emotionally disconnect from someone important in your life, you're not alone. Many people live this silent struggle, feeling as if they are trapped in an invisible web spun by memories, emotions, and unfulfilled hopes. Sometimes this person continues to exist in our lives physically, sometimes only in our memories, yet their presence still consumes us. They occupy every corner of our thoughts, shaping our emotions, affecting our moods, and influencing our view of the world around us. It might be someone we've shared deeply significant moments with, a partner, a friend, even a family member. And although we might logically understand that our attachment to them is no longer healthy, we find ourselves emotionally drawn in again and again, unable to truly break free. You may have tried many times to let go, promising yourself a clean break, a fresh start, a return to inner peace, but somehow just one word, a random image, a familiar scent, or a shared song sends you spiraling back into that emotional whirlwind. Suddenly you're flooded with memories and feelings, as if no time has passed and you're back where you started, yearning, hurting, hoping, regretting. This isn't just romantic nostalgia, it's a deeper emotional grip, and when you're in the middle of it, it can feel like you're a prisoner of your own mind. The person you want to detach from may no longer actively be a part of your life, but in many ways, they still live inside you. And that's what makes detachment so hard. It's not always about the person themselves, but what they represent to you. So why is it so difficult to emotionally detach from someone? Even when we know they're not good for our peace of mind, why do we continue to hold on, even when our better judgment tells us it's time to let go? The answers lie deep beneath the surface of our conscious minds. Emotional attachment is not merely about love, affection, or longing. Often it's rooted in patterns formed through our life experiences, unmet emotional needs, and unresolved wounds. It's about the gaps we carry within ourselves, spaces where pain, fear, insecurity, and longing have taken up residence. And often, without realizing it, we give someone else the power to fill those gaps. Think about it. How many times have you attached to someone because they made you feel seen, safe, understood, or valuable in a way you hadn't felt before? Perhaps you believed that being with them finally meant you were worthy of love or that you belonged somewhere. It's not just the person. It's the story you've written around them, the significance you've placed on their role in your life. This is where the psychological concept of projection comes in. Projection occurs when we unconsciously assign our own inner needs or qualities onto someone else. In the case of emotional attachment, it often means that we project our need for love, safety, acceptance, or identity onto another person, believing they are the only one who can give it to us. It feels as though losing them would mean losing a part of ourselves. And here lies the real trap. We're not just attached to a person. We're attached to what they symbolize, a sense of completion, a longed-for connection, the illusion of emotional security. We turn them into a psychological anchor, someone who holds together all the parts of ourselves that feel fragile or unsteady. So detaching from them feels like unraveling, like losing a lifeline we've been holding on to for too long. At the heart of many of these attachments is a hidden belief. Without this person, I am not enough. Whether we're aware of it or not, this belief drives us to idealize the other, diminish ourselves, and remain emotionally tied long past the expiration date of the relationship. We may say we love them, but often it's our need for them that keeps us bound. Another factor that complicates detachment is the emotional roller coaster many of us experience in these relationships. We go through highs when we feel close to them, and deep lows when they pull away, ignore us, or leave. This cycle mimics addiction. It becomes a pattern of reward and withdrawal that conditions our brain to crave more. Over time, we confuse emotional intensity with emotional depth, and pain becomes intertwined with love. If you've found yourself in this kind of emotional loop, know this: the power that you believe belongs to someone else, your joy, your stability, your peace, is actually yours. But reclaiming it requires deep awareness, self-honesty, and most importantly, courage. The first step toward emotional detachment is not cutting someone off coldly or suppressing your feelings. Rather, it begins with a question: what am I really seeking in this person? Is it validation, a sense of identity, relief from loneliness, security? When you can name what you're truly yearning for, you gain the power to start addressing those needs in ways that don't rely on someone else. Attachment often has less to do with the other person and more to do with parts of us that remain unmet, unseen and unhealed. The pain of letting go feels unbearable not only because we miss the person, but because it threatens to reopen wounds we've tried to cover up with their presence. But healing is possible, and so is freedom. Detachment isn't about becoming emotionally numb or pretending you don't care. It's about building a life so rooted in self-awareness and self-worth that you no longer need someone else to feel whole. Now that we've begun to explore how emotional attachment binds us, not just to a person, but to what they represent in our lives, it's time to dig deeper. To break free, we must understand the roots of attachment, not just the surface emotions, but the hidden psychological forces at work underneath. Emotional attachment often begins innocently. As human beings, we are wired for connection. From the moment we are born, we seek closeness, warmth, and safety in others. This desire is normal and even essential to our survival and development. But when our needs for love, safety, or validation go unmet, especially in childhood, we begin to form emotional patterns and beliefs that can later shape our adult relationships in profound ways. Let's start with a basic truth. Attachment is not the problem. It's a natural part of being human. The real issue arises when attachment becomes emotional dependence, when our happiness, self-worth, and sense of identity hinge on someone else. When that happens, the bond that once gave us comfort begins to drain us. So how do these patterns form? 1. Childhood wounds and emotional blueprints. The way we relate to others as adults is often deeply influenced by our early attachment experiences. If you grew up in an environment where love was inconsistent, conditional, or absent, it's likely you developed an anxious or avoidant attachment style. Maybe you were always seeking approval. Maybe you felt you had to earn love by being good or helpful. Maybe love came with strings attached. These early wounds don't just fade with time. Instead, they lay the groundwork for future relationships. We carry those unmet needs, those internal longings for affection, attention, validation, into adulthood, and we unconsciously seek to satisfy them through romantic partners, close friends, or even mentors. When someone comes along who seems to fulfill those needs, we become emotionally invested quickly, sometimes obsessively. We don't just love them, we need them. We depend on them to make us feel safe, valuable, and whole. And this dependency becomes the root of suffering. For example, a person who felt abandoned in childhood might become excessively afraid of losing others in adulthood. Even a small sign of disinterest or distance from a loved one can feel like a deep threat, triggering a panic response. This fear causes us to cling more tightly, often pushing the other person away and reinforcing the painful cycle of rejection. 2. Idealization, the illusion that feeds the bond. Another strong force that reinforces attachment is idealization, the mental act of placing someone on a pedestal. When we're emotionally attached, especially in a dependent way, we often overlook the flaws, inconsistencies, or red flags in the other person. Instead, we focus on their best qualities, the way they make us feel in our happiest moments, or the potential of who we think they could be. Idealization keeps the attachment alive even when reality contradicts it. Why do we do this? Because idealization gives us hope. It allows us to believe that this person is the answer to our emotional emptiness, the one who will finally meet our needs and fix what feels broken inside. We believe that if we could just have them, or keep them, or make things work, we'd finally feel whole. But the painful truth is that idealization is a form of self-deception. It's a fantasy we cling to so we don't have to face the deeper fear that the person isn't who we believed they were, and that the happiness we seek can't be outsourced to another human being. 3. Emotional memory and the power of shared moments. Attachment is also reinforced by emotional memory, the way our brains and hearts store experiences with others. When you've shared important milestones, deep conversations, or life-changing moments with someone, their presence becomes woven into the fabric of your story. In this way, letting go of the person can feel like losing a part of your own identity. It's not just about them. It's about who you were when you were with them, and what that period of your life represented. That's why even when a relationship turns toxic or painful, we find it hard to detach. We're afraid to lose the narrative, the meaning, the person we were during those times. This is especially strong when the person was present during formative or vulnerable phases in your life, times of change, struggle, or self-discovery. They become associated with your growth, your hope, or even your survival. And in your heart, cutting ties feels like erasing a chapter of your life. But remember, you are not your memories. The meaning of your life doesn't disappear just because you close a chapter. You carry that growth within you. 4. The cycle of emotional dependency. One of the most toxic effects of deep emotional attachment is the creation of a dependency cycle. It looks like this. You feel good when the person is responsive, kind, or available. You feel anxious or low when they're distant, cold, or absent. You try to regain their attention or affection, often compromising your own needs or boundaries. They respond, sometimes positively, sometimes not, creating a temporary high. The cycle repeats. This pattern is addictive. It mimics the behavior reward loop seen in substance addictions. And like any addiction, it creates withdrawal symptoms when the substance, the person, is removed. Feelings of sadness, longing, restlessness, even physical pain. The only way to break this cycle is to reclaim your emotional power, to begin creating stability within yourself, instead of seeking it in someone else. But that starts with awareness, recognizing that the person doesn't hold the keys to your joy. You do. 5. Projection. Seeing in others what we lack in ourselves. Perhaps the most powerful root of attachment is projection. As we touched on in part 1, projection is when we assign to someone else the traits, strengths, or qualities we feel are missing in ourselves. If you lack confidence, you may project confidence onto someone and feel magnetically drawn to them. If you long for emotional safety, you might see someone as your protector, even if they aren't safe at all. You're not really seeing them for who they are. You're seeing them as a reflection of your inner needs. This illusion creates an emotional dependency that feels almost unbreakable. But it's not them you're attached to. It's the feeling they give you, or the story you've created around them. The real work begins when you turn inward and ask, what am I projecting onto this person? Now that we've explored the hidden emotional roots behind deep attachment, childhood wounds, emotional dependency, projection, and idealization, it's time to begin the practical journey of detachment. This isn't just about creating distance from a person. It's about reclaiming your energy, rediscovering your identity, and rebuilding your emotional foundation. Emotional detachment isn't an overnight fix. It's a layered internal process that involves awareness, intention, and consistent practice. It's not about forcing yourself to forget, but learning how to shift your focus inward, so your sense of peace is no longer held hostage by someone else's presence or absence. Let's walk through the first real steps that will allow you to begin this transformation. 1. Reflective writing. Understanding what you're really attached to. The first and most powerful step you can take is self-inquiry through reflective writing. Sit down with a pen and paper or open a journal app and begin by asking yourself, what am I truly seeking from this person? What need are they meeting from me emotionally or psychologically? When I think about letting go, what fear arises? What would my life look like if I didn't need this person for my peace? Let your answers flow without judgment. This writing is not for anyone else. It's your mirror, a way to look into your emotional world and start to see the deeper patterns that drive your attachment. You may uncover surprising truths. Perhaps it's not the person you miss, but how they made you feel, safe, desired, worthy. Or maybe you realize that the fear of being alone has more power over you than you thought. These insights are not signs of weakness. They're the starting point for growth. When you name what you're truly longing for, validation, stability, love, connection, you give yourself the power to begin meeting those needs from within rather than outsourcing them to another person. 2. Creating emotional space, reducing contact and energy investment. Once you've begun to understand the root of your attachment, the next step is creating emotional space. This doesn't always mean cutting someone off completely, though in some cases that may be necessary, but it does mean reducing the mental and emotional bandwidth you dedicate to them. Some examples. Stop checking their social media. This keeps your emotional wound open. Avoid rereading old messages or scrolling through photos. Set a boundary for how often you talk or think about them with friends. If they're still in your life, consider limiting communication or keeping it neutral and clear. Each time you break one of these habits, your brain begins to rewire. The person begins to move out of the center of your mind, and you begin to occupy that space instead. This isn't about being cold. It's about protecting your energy while you heal. Think of it as detoxing. Just like your body needs time away from unhealthy substances, your emotions need space from the person who's become your emotional fix. 3. Reconnecting with yourself. Who were you before the attachment? Deep attachment often causes us to lose touch with ourselves. We begin to see ourselves only in relation to the other person. Who am I to them? What do they think of me? Am I enough? These questions slowly replace our self-awareness with self-doubt. So now it's time to reclaim your identity. Ask yourself, who was I before this person came into my life? What did I love doing when I was completely focused on myself? What parts of me have I neglected? Start rebuilding your relationship with yourself as if you were getting to know a long-lost friend. Engage in activities that bring you joy, not because they distract you from the pain, but because they help you remember who you are without the attachment. This might mean rediscovering hobbies, learning a new skill, joining a community, or simply spending time alone in ways that feel nurturing and meaningful. Each of these actions helps to refill your emotional reserves with your own energy, not someone else's. 4. Practicing visualization. Imagine a life without emotional dependence. One powerful psychological tool that aids detachment is visualization. This practice helps you mentally rehearse a new version of your life. One where you are not emotionally dependent. One where you feel whole and peaceful on your own. Each day, take a few minutes to sit quietly and imagine a future version of yourself who is confident and emotionally balanced, not triggered by memories or what-ifs, living a fulfilling, joyful life with or without a partner, free from obsessive thoughts about the past. What does that version of you look like? What are you doing? Who's around you? How does it feel to wake up without that emotional burden? Your brain doesn't know the difference between a vividly imagined future and a real one. So the more you visualize peace, the more your mind begins to align with it emotionally. Over time, visualization becomes a way to rewire your inner narrative, shifting from loss to liberation. 5. Building daily rituals of self-compassion and grounding. Emotional detachment can stir up guilt, sadness, even anger toward yourself. You may wonder why it's taking so long to let go, or feel frustrated with every emotional setback. This is why practicing self-compassion is absolutely essential. Try daily rituals like saying affirmations like, "I am allowed to take time to heal," or "I am whole without anyone else completing me." Taking 5 minutes to sit with your hand over your heart and breathe deeply, acknowledging your pain without judgment. Writing a short note of encouragement to yourself each night, just as you would to a friend. This gentle self-care is not a luxury. It's the foundation of detachment. You're teaching yourself that even when you hurt, you're still worthy. That your emotions don't need to be fixed immediately, they just need to be held with kindness. 6. Setting emotional boundaries with yourself. Sometimes the hardest person to say no to is yourself. The part of you that wants to reread old texts at midnight. The part that secretly hopes for one more message. The part that replays memories as if they were happening now. To truly detach, you must create boundaries with your own thoughts. This can look like gently but firmly redirecting your focus when obsessive thinking begins. This thought is not helping me heal. I choose peace. Replacing rumination with grounding techniques. Name 5 things you can see, hear, feel, or smell. Scheduling time with yourself to reflect. Not to indulge in fantasy, but to check in, process, and redirect. Boundaries don't shut down your heart. They protect your healing. And with every choice you make in favor of your well-being, you take another step away from emotional dependence and closer to inner peace. By now, you've started to examine your emotional attachment, not just how it manifests, but what lies beneath it. You've reflected, reduced your emotional investment, created space, and begun reconnecting with yourself. But there's one major barrier that still quietly holds many people hostage: idealization. Emotional detachment becomes incredibly difficult when we continue to idealize the person we're trying to let go of. Idealization is the mental and emotional process of turning someone into more than they really are, elevating their qualities, ignoring their flaws, and imagining that they hold a kind of magic that no one else ever could. This mental pedestal becomes a trap. It keeps you hoping, longing, and looking backward. But here's the truth. No one is perfect, and no one is your savior. Let's look at how to begin breaking down this illusion and what it means to redefine love in a healthier, more grounded way. 1. Understanding idealization, the fantasy that fuels attachment. Idealization doesn't always happen consciously. It's usually a subconscious coping mechanism, an emotional shortcut to make sense of why someone meant so much to us. We remember their best qualities. We focus on the times they made us feel alive. We highlight their intelligence, humor, or tenderness, and we tuck their inconsistency, neglect, or emotional unavailability away into a dark corner. And that's what makes letting go so hard. You're not just mourning the person as they are. You're grieving who you thought they were. The potential, the version of them that existed in your imagination, the one who might have changed, the one who could have loved you the way you needed. To truly detach, you need to stop clinging to potential and start seeing reality. Ask yourself, what parts of this person did I exaggerate in my mind? What flaws or hurtful patterns did I excuse or minimize? Was I in love with them, or in love with who I wanted them to be? You're not betraying the connection by seeing it clearly. In fact, clarity is your path to freedom. 2. The truth about love. What it is and what it isn't. One reason emotional detachment feels so unnatural is because we've been taught distorted ideas about what love should look like. We've been fed the belief that real love must hurt. Intensity equals depth. Missing someone means they're your soulmate. The more you sacrifice, the more real the love is. These are lies dressed as romance. Real love is not chaos. Real love is not fear. Real love does not leave you empty or unsure. Love should feel safe, consistent, and kind. It should uplift, not drain you. If your relationship felt like walking on eggshells, constantly seeking approval, or doubting your worth, that wasn't love. It was emotional dependency wrapped in desire. Detaching is not giving up on love. It's refusing to settle for the illusion of love. You are not walking away from connection. You are walking toward a healthier version of it. One where you are not abandoned, silenced, or devalued. 3. Rewriting the story. You are not incomplete. Many of us hold a quiet, painful belief deep down. Without this person, I'm not whole. This belief often stems from emotional wounds, trauma, or long-held insecurity. And it's one of the strongest emotional anchors that keeps us attached. Here's the truth. You were whole before this person came into your life, and you are whole now. It may feel like something inside you broke when they left, or when things fell apart, but that's only because you handed over part of your identity to them. You told yourself, consciously or unconsciously, they complete me. Now you have the opportunity and the responsibility to take that identity back. Start affirming your completeness. I am enough without being chosen by someone else. My worth is not defined by another's presence. I do not need to be needed to be whole. The more you shift the narrative, the less power idealization will have over you. 4. Challenging the belief that no one will compare. One of the most damaging beliefs we hold when trying to detach is, I'll never find someone like them again. But let's examine that. Ask yourself, is it really true that there's only one person on this planet capable of making me feel seen, loved, or desired? Or is it that I haven't yet experienced those feelings with someone who is also healthy, available, and aligned with me? The fear that no one else will compare often stems from scarcity thinking, a deep-rooted belief that love is rare and hard to find. This scarcity mindset keeps us tied to what's familiar, even when it hurts us. In reality, what you felt was real, but it's not exclusive to that person. What you experienced was a reflection of your own capacity to feel, connect, and love deeply. The love, joy, and passion you want, those things come from you. And if you created that emotional experience once, you can do it again, with someone new, someone better aligned with your healed self. 5. Honoring the past without clinging to it. Letting go doesn't mean erasing your memories or pretending you never cared. Detachment isn't emotional amnesia, it's emotional maturity. You're allowed to cherish what you learned, acknowledge how they impacted your life, feel grateful for the role they played, even if it ended painfully. But you don't have to carry the weight of the past forward. You don't have to relive it every day or allow it to define your present. Try this simple ritual. Write a letter you'll never send. Say everything you need to say. Thank you. Goodbye, I'm sorry, I forgive you. Let the words pour out. Cry if you need to. Then fold it, put it away, or burn it. It's not about them reading it. It's about you releasing it. Closure doesn't come from their apology. It comes from your decision to move on. 6. Prepare for healthier connections. Breaking idealization and detaching isn't just about ending something. It's about preparing yourself for something better. As you heal, you start to develop a new standard, a new vision of what connection should feel like. Mutual respect, shared values, emotional availability, consistent effort, safety, and trust. You no longer chase what's confusing or one-sided. You start to attract people who match your new frequency, people who see your worth without needing to be convinced. Your relationships shift because you have shifted. You've come a long way. You've faced the truth about your attachment. You've created space. You've grieved illusions, rewritten your story, and begun healing the wounds that made you cling so tightly. This isn't easy work, it's sacred work. It's the work of transformation. Now it's time to step fully into your power. This final chapter is not about moving on in the shallow, superficial sense. It's about reclaiming control of your energy, mastering your emotional world, and creating a life where your peace is no longer dependent on anyone else. Let's talk about how to build lasting, emotional independence and what it looks like to truly live free. 1. Let go of waiting for closure, for change, for return. One of the most subtle ways we stay attached is through waiting. Waiting for them to apologize. Waiting for them to come back. Waiting for them to realize your worth. Waiting for closure, a final conversation, a resolution. But here's the truth you need to internalize. Waiting is a decision, and it's one that keeps your power outside of you. Every day you wait, you hold your life in limbo. You put your healing on pause, hoping that someone else will give you the emotional resolution you crave. But real closure doesn't come from someone else. It comes from within. It comes from saying, I don't need you to understand to let go. I don't need a final chapter to stop reading the story. I choose peace over closure. You're not responsible for what they couldn't give. You're responsible for what you decide to give yourself. 2. Create a peace practice. Healing doesn't just happen in big breakthroughs. It happens in the small, quiet moments you choose peace over pain, alignment over obsession, present over past. Create a daily peace practice. Something consistent. Something just for you. Examples. A 10-minute morning meditation, where you visualize releasing emotional cords. Journaling each evening. What did I do today that honored my healing? Walking in nature and practicing gratitude for the present moment. Speaking an affirmation, I am free. I am whole. I am safe in myself. You don't need to feel amazing every day, but showing up for your own peace daily, no matter how small, reinforces the truth. You are not at the mercy of your emotions. You are the one holding the steering wheel now. 3. Build a new identity, not someone who's letting go, but someone who has let go. There's a subtle but powerful shift that happens when you stop identifying as someone who is stuck, hurt, or attached, and start living as the version of yourself who is already free. Ask yourself, how would I think if I had already moved on? How would I talk to myself? What choices would I make? Now start doing those things before you feel ready. You've come a long way. You've faced the truth about your attachment. You've created space. You've grieved illusions, rewritten your story, and begun healing the wounds that made you cling so tightly. This isn't easy work, it's sacred work. It's the work of transformation. Now it's time to step fully into your power. This final chapter is not about moving on in the shallow, superficial sense. It's about reclaiming control of your energy, mastering your emotional world, and creating a life where your peace is no longer dependent on anyone else. Let's talk about how to build lasting, emotional independence and what it looks like to truly live free. 1. Let go of waiting for closure, for change, for return. One of the most subtle ways we stay attached is through waiting. Waiting for them to apologize. Waiting for them to come back. Waiting for them to realize your worth. Waiting for closure, a final conversation, a resolution. But here's the truth you need to internalize. Waiting is a decision, and it's one that keeps your power outside of you. Every day you wait, you hold your life in limbo. You put your healing on pause, hoping that someone else will give you the emotional resolution you crave. But real closure doesn't come from someone else. It comes from within. It comes from saying, I don't need you to understand to let go. I don't need a final chapter to stop reading the story. I choose peace over closure. You're not responsible for what they couldn't give. You're responsible for what you decide to give yourself. 2. Create a peace practice. Healing doesn't just happen in big breakthroughs. It happens in the small, quiet moments you choose peace over pain, alignment over obsession, present over past. Create a daily peace practice. Something consistent. Something just for you. Examples. A 10-minute morning meditation, where you visualize releasing emotional cords. Journaling each evening. What did I do today that honored my healing? Walking in nature and practicing gratitude for the present moment. Speaking an affirmation, I am free. I am whole. I am safe in myself. You don't need to feel amazing every day, but showing up for your own peace daily, no matter how small, reinforces the truth. You are not at the mercy of your emotions. You are the one holding the steering wheel now. 3. Build a new identity, not someone who's letting go, but someone who has let go. There's a subtle but powerful shift that happens when you stop identifying as someone who is stuck, hurt, or attached, and start living as the version of yourself who is already free. Ask yourself, how would I think if I had already moved on? How would I talk to myself? What choices would I make? Now start doing those things before you feel ready. You don't need to wait for some magical day. When you feel 100% healed, you become healed by choosing new behavior, one moment at a time. Embody the version of you who has let go, and your mind will begin to follow. You are not the one who can't let go. You are becoming the one who did. 4. Replace emotional dependency with internal anchors. Emotional attachment often stems from using someone else as your emotional anchor, your source of safety, identity, comfort. To truly live in emotional freedom, you must begin building those anchors within yourself. Ask, what makes me feel grounded when I'm alone? What soothes me that doesn't rely on another person? How can I create a sense of safety in my own body and space? Try a morning or evening ritual that centers you, a creative outlet that lets you process emotion, writing, art, music, a sacred space in your home that brings you comfort, movement like yoga, dancing, or walking to connect with your body. These anchors remind your nervous system, I am okay, even when I'm alone. I can create peace from within. This is what emotional independence feels like. 5. Use relapses as lessons, not evidence of failure. Let's be real. Healing is not a straight line. Some days, you'll feel totally free. Other days, an old memory, song, or dream might bring it all back. This doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're human. Relapses into attachment thinking are not signs of weakness. They are invitations to reinforce your healing. When a wave hits, don't shame yourself. Instead, respond with, what is this trying to show me? What part of me still needs compassion? What reminder do I need right now to come back to peace? Over time, those waves come less often. And when they do come, they don't knock you down the same way. Because you've built the tools, the strength, the self-trust. 6. Let love return in a healthier form. Emotional detachment is not the end of your love story. It's the beginning of a better one. As you detach from what was, you clear space for what's meant to be. Not just another person, but a new kind of love. Love rooted in truth, not fantasy. Love based on emotional safety, not addiction. Love that reflects how far you've come, not how broken you once felt. When you stop chasing what hurt you, you start attracting what heals you. But more importantly, you begin to realize you don't need love to feel worthy. You are worthy, and love, when it arrives, will simply reflect what you already know. Final message. You are already becoming who you were meant to be. Letting go is not about forgetting. It's about remembering who you are without the weight of someone else defining you. It's about choosing yourself over and over again, even on the days when it hurts. It's about seeing that your peace was never outside of you. It was buried under hope, pain, illusion, and now you're digging it out piece by piece. You're not just letting go of a person. You're letting go of old patterns, emotional dependence, and stories that told you you weren't enough. You are enough, and you're not becoming whole. You're remembering that you always were. If this message resonated with you, don't let it be the last. Subscribe to the channel for more deep, honest, and healing conversations about emotional growth, self-worth, and letting go of what no longer serves you. This space is for people who are done with surface-level advice and ready to do the real inner work. If that's you, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and let's keep growing together. Because healing isn't a destination. It's a journey, and you don't have to walk it alone.